Okay, folks, we have Aristo, and the title for the video today is Does Truth Set You Free? And that's an interesting question indeed. Aristo, let's go.
Okay. The reason that, aside from the fact that I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, and this is almost like a rushed, okay, we're on and let's talk about something, and oh, what are we going to talk about? But that's a good thing, too, in a way, because you know that this isn't planned, and it's very spontaneous in a sense. I know some people like organized discussions and thought out and well thought out, whatever, but sometimes that gets in the way because in real life, we're often confronted with things that we have to react to in an immediate manner, in a spontaneous manner. Those are our more natural reactions. Sometimes they're more truthful, but they can also be very defensive. So it is a challenge. This topic especially is interesting for Ron, but also for me because, well, for Ron, because you see it on his videos, you know, variations on the theme. If people would only tell the truth, everything would be okay. If the truth were known, everything would be okay. If we can just speak the truth, you know, everything would be okay, or at least we'd be going on a path where everything would be okay. It's lies that are the problem. And I'm saying, well, are you sure, you know, that the truth is supposed to set you free? And really, are you sure that the truth as defined in the Bible, for example, where that phrase came up, and in pragmatic modern day life, are they the same thing? Do people really, when they say truth today, is it the same truth, the same meaning? What is the truth? Is the truth of facts? Or is the truth a transcendent sense, something else? I think we need to examine this because I believe we can be severely disappointed if all of a sudden we find ourselves in a world where we're living the so-called truth. Because is it the truth? Are there layers of truth? Let's just examine this in a kind of impromptu manner. Again, food for thought. Why food for thought? Again, you know, why is this thought food? Well, let's put it this way. Let's say you are convinced, Ron convinces you in his videos or other people, or the Bible has convinced you that the truth will set you free. And so all of your life, you just want to tell the truth. You go learn everybody's secrets and you blab them to the world. You betray all of your friends' secrets. You know, that's the truth. That's going to set you free. I used to do that as a kid. You know, I would learn the gossips and feel, well, everybody should be, you know, naive as a kid. I would think people should be honest with each other. And maybe they should. But the fact is, can they handle it? That's a fact. People cannot handle honesty because there are several layers to honesty. Most people stop at the first, second, third layer. As soon as something is disturbing, they stop there and they call it honesty. They don't look at the deeper motives and whatever because it's too hard to penetrate. If we could all act in a healthy psychological manner, there would be no problems in the world. Maybe that's what it means the truth will set us free. Let's heal. Let's be, because the truth is that when we are healed and natural, then everything is cool, in my honest opinion. If other people would disagree again, they would say, no, the world's a fucked up place because that's what nature is. Nature is fucked up. There seems to be a lot of, well, why do I say, well, those people who want to leave the material plane, why do they want to leave it? People who say that the world is an illusion. Nature is an illusion. You're an illusion. I'm an illusion. Our spirits are real, meaning that only what goes on in your head, which a psychologist would call an illusion or, you know, unreality. Reality is what's outside in your senses, not what goes on in your head. Now, I don't want anybody to contest this. I'm just speaking rhetorically right now. But the thing is, the point is that the world itself, some people consider it so disturbing that they would want to escape it, thinking that there's something better, thinking that escape is even possible. Because if the world is an illusion, thinking you can escape an illusion that's insane. Why? Because trying to get away, what are you really trying to get away from? The illusion doesn't matter. What matters is the reality behind it, and that's what you're trying to escape because that's what's having impact on you. Illusions don't have impact. imagination is not
Experience does, though.
exactly, exactly. That's the whole thing. You think that you see the experience of believing an illusion is true might have impact because you are then creating your reality based on the illusion. So that's how you create your reality. We can easily see negative effects of reality creation, but we rarely see positive effects. And when we do see the positive effects, are addicted and attached to them so much that we want to escape the negative ones. So metaphysical understandings have taken all of this, and again, they've just cycled them into the same bullshit, in my honest opinion, of you have to not be attached to anything. You see, on the internet, all of these truths or truisms, these esoteric or philosophical truisms, are the result of either much thought over generations of philosophers, or much esoteric cultivation that's highly challenging, that deals with shit that nobody wants to confront, transcending barriers that most people cannot even conceive of. And all of a sudden you have people who read a few books and then they go and promote these things. They promote the form of it. And that is not the truth. This leads to not only misunderstandings, but people going down blind paths, people being disappointed, throwing out babies with bathwaters, and then coming back into a cynical view where there isn't even any hope, because they took all these things that were supposed to give them hope, they twisted them, misunderstood them, mostly because they were lazy and they didn't do the work that you're supposed to do to get something out of it, or because somebody out there is a paid or not unpaid or fucked up shill that wants to, for whatever reason, not have people benefit from this. So what sets you free? Just knowing these things? No. Is the truth a mental thing? Is it an intellectual thing? Can the truth be intellectualized? In my honest opinion, the reason that all of these esoteric systems tell you the world is an illusion is because there is no world out there outside of what you're perceiving in here. And that is a scientific fact, that basically everything you see and experience in the world is a projection within your own being of the world. And because it's an accurate projection, because it's an image, you can function in the world without running into things, because you build and base the world and oriented the world based on an accurate image, like a map. Okay, if the map is true to the territory, look at maps, The world isn't two-dimensional. It doesn't have little boundary lines that separate countries. There are no dots in the ground where a town is, These are all images representing our catering to our desire to navigate the territory. They don't care about being realistic. They don't care about giving us the territory. So is it the truth? No. Is it a lie? No. It's a specified piece of information designed for a certain purpose. Our senses are the same way. They're not lies, but they are, because the so-called reality, everything is so complex, so deep, so unfathomable with respect to our current capacity, shall we say, to sustain and contain it, that, what's the point of trying to encompass it all? So what are we talking about when we say the truth? We have to be able to specify, it will help us to specify what territories we want to navigate. It's our desire to navigate life that we want to make whole. We want to reflect in terms of something natural and healthy. It's our desire to navigate life in a meaningful manner that we're trying to augment, that we're trying to liberate. Not the desire, but the ability to fulfill that desire. This is very important. It's not just running around concepts here, because we can take truisms because they're easy. Look how Facebook helps you. Just take a cliche and post it with a fancy little background and a meme. It helps you create memes, but memes are bullshit. The purpose of a meme is to convey and affect the audience with a psychological impact, okay, in terms of how we find them on the internet. a very short thing that you can wrap your mind around with your 0.2-second attention span as it's being cultivated these days. So you don't have to think much because thinking hurts. Why does thinking hurt? Because when you don't exercise a muscle, it hurts when you move it. That's why. And so we're not exercising our muscles. We are waiting for others, to give us food for thought, but we don't chew. We just swallow it whole. And then we complain when we have mental indigestion. So is the truth going to set us free? Is it going to give us mental indigestion? Is it going to cause us to vomit and hate ourselves and hate everybody around us? Is it going to poison us? Because the truth is something that is not a single thing. We want it into a nice palatable pill that solves everything. And the American society especially has capitalized on this innate desire of people to make things nice and easy, to make things simple. Why can't we keep things completely simple? Well, because it's unrealistic. And when you're living in an unrealistic manner, you are prone to making mistakes. You are prone to being manipulated. You are prone to being fooled. Then you are not living the truth. Okay, so the funny paradox is, funny to me at least, is that the desire to have the truth set you free is actually what keeps us in illusion. Because our desire is not for the truth. Our desire is for the truth as we would prefer it to be, or as we have been brainwashed or conditioned to prefer it to be. Now, Ron disagrees with me here.
Yeah, to me, truth is easy. It's, politicians are always lying. The financial system is a huge lie. It's money created out of nothing, backed by nothing, fiat currency. And the whole system is insane to me. Yeah, absolutely insane.
Most people know that. They know it to some extent, and they say, oh, that's life. They're not set free because they know that if they're going to counteract that, they're going to have to start a revolution and possibly get everybody they know killed, because the other side has been preparing for that forever, because they're all paranoid psychopaths that are scared of their shadows. So the truth is, people only believe in this stuff. It's like this. Okay, somebody is a child, their parents have been molesting them since day one, and then they mind wipe they have a car crash and they have amnesia. All of a sudden, their parents are the best people in the world, or they leave home and go to college and leave their parents and have a great life. Then they hit their head again 20 years later and remember everything, and they end up in the mental hospital. So yeah. Is the truth setting them free, or is that the truth? Because if they go deeper, they'll see that their parents are messed up people who have messed up lives themselves and all of this. And and they might develop compassion from the whole situation. They might learn in a way that the world is more complicated. You can't live like a kid. You're a grown-up now. All kinds of things that can help them transcend the situation without escaping from it. That's going to lead them through hell. But on the other end, they might not have done it if things were easier. That's why people say, oh, suffering is a good thing. No, suffering is not a good thing. But the world is complex and entropy exists, and we are here to make choices. We're not like animals that live on instinct and keep things the same and the same and the same because that's the way our environment is, or our natures are not so fixed. We are here to change the world. We are here to change ourselves because we are the voice of nature that says it is not good enough. And if we try to make it good enough for one person, everybody else suffers. If we try to make it good enough for a group of people, everybody else suffers. It's almost like why? Because we're rearranging the deck chairs. Because, okay, you have resources on this planet that are finite. You take them from here, you put them over there. They starve here. They're okay over there. And that's not even enough. You have to make slaves of 90% of the population so 10% can have a good time. And then 1% out of that 10% says, well, wouldn't it be easier to just make slaves out of everybody except us five, great families here, and just be like gods? We can make them do anything. Humans are innovative. We can't really make them like slaves like they were in ancient Rome. We got to make them slaves that can have PhDs, that can actually create things, that can actually, make great things and that we couldn't even conceive of. The slave has to be smarter than you, more intelligent, you know, more creative, more stronger, more athletic, all kinds of things that you would think, well, if they're better than you, then they should depose you. No, the master can still control the slave. All they have to do is lack empathy.
Which we see demonstrated.
Exactly. You see, the truth is all over the internet. It's just smeared on a pile of shit. You know, that's it. I mean, if you have a beautiful flower and you smear it over a canvas of crap, the beauty kind of disappears. It's not enough to have the truth as an isolated thing. You need context, okay? The context, however, for the truth is your own soul, your own being, your own body mind, shall we say. The context, you can write that down. The context for truth is what makes truth valuable. And the context is you. Who are you? What are you? Are you the soul that is finding itself on some planet that's a prison planet that's crap, that all you have to do is leave? Then you end up tolerating everything because your only agenda is to get the fuck out of here. Is it hopeless? Are you meant to sacrifice yourself for the whole because you're just an insignificant nobody on an insignificant planet? Well, what's the result of that? Well, that's how the psychopaths get in power in the first place. They convince us to do stupid things like sacrificing ourselves for their causes. Oh, then if we would sacrifice ourselves for our causes, well, now we have the technology that would wipe us out. You don't play, you know, a game of chicken with folks that are, you know how these families work. You said it yourself. They molest their own children. You know, it's like that. They don't care. You know, they treat their children and make sure that their children are psychopaths, really bad, and that they have a grudge against reality itself. And so you can't play a game of chicken with them. You can't play with them. You can't engage with them, okay? Because that is a setup. Why can't you? Well, I choose to. I want to engage with them. Well, you won't have any positive results, okay? Because that's not the point. That's not the truth. That is a fact. That is an experience, okay? We are engaging in an experience that's messed up, shall we say, okay, with the economies and with the politicians and all of this. But imagine if they really came out and said, okay, everything is fine, let's change it. But you would have to go through a shitload of modifications in society that would cause a lot of people who had to give up what they have for other people. And the other people would want to get more because they would have resentment. You know, to rebalance everything in an external manner so everybody gets their just desserts without addressing the internal issues. If you don't address something that affects things internally, then the change you make will only be temporary because everybody will snap back to where they were. Think about it this way. If you just cut drinks off of an alcoholic, they will find a way to find a drink unless you address them internally. That's what I guess Alcoholics Anonymous does. It's a whole thing, support mechanism to affect the internal world of the alcoholic so they can actually say no to the alcohol and clean their thing up. I'm not an expert, so I don't know about that kind of thing so much, but it's just an example. Another example, you know, if you end war and cause people, take the guns away from people and, you know, but the grudges still exist, they will claw each other's eyes out with their bare hands. You're going to have to, you know, tie their hands up. They won't be able to feed themselves without hands. You know, they will go bite each other. They will do anything possible to get that grudge. They will wait in the corner like a psychopath does. So unless you heal or correct the root of psychopathy in a way that doesn't compromise our very nature, you know, well, let's just drug ourselves into oblivion, you know, then what? Well, that's not doing anything. So it's not going to work, okay? Finding a solution externally and saying, well, your psyche is your business. Of course, it's not any government's business, but to just leave people to their fates, taking the criminals off the streets is not going to cure crime when there's injustice in the world, for example. A lot of criminals, there's criminals that are psychopathic, greedy, this and that, and then there's criminals that are just desperate people. that need to do anything to survive. And in the system where the so-called people at the top are criminals, is going to balance out with a whole criminality at the bottom of society in order for those people to survive. And that suits the system because they need to justify what they're doing. Oh, look at all this crime. We need police. We need to police everybody. So sometimes, imagine this, when I was a kid, like I said, people would tell me, that I would hear conversations about things, and then I would go relay from one family member to another family member, because I thought I was doing them all a favor because I believed in communication. And then I got in big, big trouble and made a big mess, and people were angry at each other for weeks, and it was all my fault, because of course I was a kid, but still it was all my fault. I felt guilty about that for a while. But then again, you have to be careful because people can't handle information, not the truth of the lies. They can't handle certain information that goes against their own grain. They will flip out. They will misunderstand. They can't handle their own psyches. It should be that way. If we had any schools that mattered, one of the things that we would be teaching children is how to handle all of the crap that's being thrown at them in some way or another. But even adults can't handle it. This so-called psychology is a joke. All it does now is just to prescribe drugs anymore. And metaphysics has been dominated by religion, and now all the crackpots in the world that basically have learned to just talk like experts, and people believe the crackpots because their focus is talking good. It's not the truth. It's not giving something useful to other people. It's not helping them. It's sugarcoating, and sugar is an addictive substance. So, it's very easy to say, well, human beings are messed up, and they never will get better, so just fuck them, let them all die or whatever. Humanity sucks. That's another piece of propaganda. Humanity doesn't suck. My former title was going to be people is a plural gender, a plural word. It's not a singular word. People is not a single thing. You can't clump everybody. We are different. We are humans. We have things in common, many, many things in common, a common substratum. That substratum is not bad, because otherwise you wouldn't have the variety of so-called functional and dysfunctional and everything. However, then they would be all dysfunctional. We would just have chewed each other up long ago. And it's not like we're chewing each other up. It's like some are chewing everybody else, and everybody else is reacting to that. And in a way, it might be evolution at work. It might be nature prompting us to get up off our asses because material reality is conservative. What do they say? Nature is frugal, or it doesn't, nature doesn't like to spend extra energy. Nature likes to conserve because there isn't energy to go around in the material plane. You have to eat something material, and then you have to keep consuming, and you don't just open up and breathe like the mystics say you're supposed to, as happens on more rarefied so-called planes of existence that people like for that reason. However, the material experience is more intense, and there's more variety because it's more intense. It sustains all the other ones, all the other more rarefied levels of overworlds and so-called underworlds, conscious, subconscious, superconscious, preconscious. Everything is anchored in material presence. So, we're going around and around, but that is the truth. That is the truth that's beyond just the five senses. Some people say, no, truths are just facts. There's five senses, scientific, quantified, but there's more to life then. If that's the truth, you look at what that does to people. They turn into people who are trying to live better lives, who are convincing themselves that that's the way, and some people are adapted that way. Most people just turn into cynics, I think. Very cynical people who find no real meaning in life because it's just too much pain. And so you will always have a large portion of the population going off into fantasy because we are wired that way. And I don't believe we are wired in a way that goes against the grain of nature. I believe we are wired in a way that's resonant and harmonized with nature, because we wouldn't be adapted. We couldn't exist then. So our tendency to go into fantasy is something that reflects reality itself. Reality is more flexible. The than we think. So the truth is more hard to grasp, it's more fluid. Now, what you're speaking of course, is a whole other topic than what I'm speaking of in some way, because I'm speaking with a fundamental. You're using a very deep term for something basically for an elected official to speak the facts. You want the elected official to speak the facts in an environment where their very election depends on somebody who has criminal intent. That's not really an elected official. You know, the ones electing them are the psychopaths. So it's meaningless. If only the criminal would tell us that they're screwing us, you know what? We would launch a revolution and depose them because there's a lot of us and they'll only gun down 90% before the rest of them take over. So the lucky ones will be the ones in the back row, or, you know, and I've seen people on the internet, we need a revolution. You guys need to all go and attack. And I'll be back, and when you're all gone, you know, I'll just, you know, yeah, life will be good for me. I just got to find a sucker to clean the corpses out of the battlefield, you know. So it's not going to work that way. Most people don't want to disrupt our lives, and I, for one, don't want to die because some other asshole is expecting a better life out of my sacrifice. There's too much sacrifice already. The whole Christian religion is based on the sacrifice of one person or one individual. And that teaches us how great it is, you know. Oh, let's sacrifice ourselves for don't be selfish, you know. Well, it turns out that most lives sacrificed appear to be wasted because nothing is changing. They're wasted. That's not the way to go. So I do agree that the truth sets us free, but the truth of the truth is that you have to apply the truth to be free. You can't just know it. Somebody telling you the truth as a fact and screaming it in your face when you already know it and are in denial of it. Lying to yourself. Not lying to yourself because you know you're in denial. You just don't care. You're afraid. If you're going to really want the truth to set somebody free, you have to cut the bonds of fear for that person. But they don't want the bonds of fear to be cut. They are adapted to the situation. It is too much trouble. So many people may indeed choose death. And the system is brainwashing them to do that. A shitty life is easy to let go of, first of all. Second of all, a belief system that tells you there's a great afterlife makes you prone to want to die easier. Then you have a belief system that says suicide is bad, but you know, so you want to keep the young people alive so they'll work for you. And then around age 60, when they can't work anymore, just let them die. But the thing is that what happens when technology gives you automation? What if everything can be automated? Do you really need people anymore? No, you probably won't, but you can't just do away with them, because if we have nothing left to lose, then you're going to see people organizing, and you can oppress them all you want. If people want to revolt, they'll revolt. If people as a singular find that common substratum of we are fucked, and they, you know, some of them are just going to jump off the cliff, but you're going to have a lot of them, enough of them, out of 6 billion, that are going to find a way around this. And out of 6 billion, you probably have a lot of them that are already finding something that nobody else can conceive of. I mean, if you have a certain amount of psychopaths, considering the symmetry, a hypothetical symmetry of human existence, you're going to have a bunch of geniuses on the other end of the spectrum. And these are not going to go on the internet and tell you who they are. They're not going to go anywhere. You are not going to know. If you are in the middle of the spectrum, you are going to see yourself in ignorance. Okay, so there's a lot of reasons why the so-called truth will not set us free. We have to want to be free first, and freedom is responsibility, and that may be a topic for another discussion. So I'll leave you with these thoughts all over the place once again. At least it's interesting, I guess, but it may be useful.
Okay, well, I guess that's the wrap-up.
That's the wrap-up, yep.
Okay.
Take it or leave.
Thank you, Aristo.
Thank you.
Till next time.